Hi, Sarah here with a process video for you today. I'll be using these beautiful papers by TandiArt and making a mixed media page. So to begin with, I am just going to create a background. I'm using the mixed media journal, and this has really thick pages, so you can add loads and loads of mixed media and it just holds up brilliantly. Most of my products today are from Paper, Pen and Plan. I'm on their creative team, so if you did want to get hold of any of the things you see in the video, I will link the shop and my discount code in the description below, so that will be there if you do want to. If not, just enjoy the video. I am using rollers and the little jelly plate there, as well as some Prima and Dilutions acrylic paints to create a bit of a background. I'm going for sort of a sky, but I'm not too bothered about how realistic it looks. A lot of this is going to get covered. I just want to create a nice, interesting background with lots of colour and texture that I will then add my fussy cut papers to afterwards. I'm creating now some kind of like swirly, cloudy kind of shapes with the white. I mostly just wanted to tone the colour down, so I'm not too fussed about them looking fully like clouds. It's more just for the texture and to make the background look nice and fairy tale-ish. Is that even a word? Probably not. I've got really bad baby brain. So I'm just blending that out with my finger, and then I'll just keep adding more and more layers using the acrylic paints. The rollers I use are also dilution rollers. They're brilliant. You can get a few different sizes, and they're great for just adding lots of paint to a page, and also great for using with the jelly plates as well, which I will be using that small one in a little while. I've just here fussy cut out my elements that I want to use on my page, and I've just popped them to one side for now while I carry on working on the background. I've got a general gist of where I want them to go, so from that I'm going to start building up my background with more interesting colours and textures. I'm just using a bit of white acrylic paint here that I've just put on that mini jelly plate just because it's there, and I'm just using a makeup sponge to add this to my background, just so there's lots of marks all over the page. It's kind of like a mark making stencil. I think it's by Vicky Booten, but rather than doodling loads and loads of marks, this is a way quicker way of adding them on there. And then I'm also blending them out slightly here and there to add more white to the page, because I do want to tone the whole thing down. So as you can see, I'm adding quite a lot of white, especially where I feel like the colours are a little bit too bold. Next, I'm going to work on the sun, which I'm going to add. I'm going to add more elements to it. It's not just going to be a yellow blob in the sky. Well, it kind of is a bit. But I'm just using this jelly plate to create the sun, because I thought it'd be a nice idea to jelly print onto there. So to add more interest to it, I've removed some of the yellow paint that I rolled on there with the white to tone it down slightly. So it adds a little bit of texture to the actual printed image, and then I decide that it's way too light. I just add extra paint to random pages as well that I can then create something with later. I'm adding again another stencil. I mop up just the bit from within the stencil, take that off, and then print it down, and then it gives me that little bit of texture, a little bit more interest. And then using just a wet wipe that's dry, just a random one, a mop up kind of leftover one, I just blend out the edges slightly so that it's not so perfect. Now I'm adding some more texture. I've got this beautiful doily shaped stencil that's from AB Studio. All these stencils are from AB Studio, and the TandiArt collection is AB Studio as well. And I'm just adding some lovely texture with a couple of these stencils here and there around the page. But I'm keeping in mind where I want my image to go, so obviously I don't want to put that directly in the way of anything, but I say that now and I actually add lots over the top of where I do this little doily piece here, but never mind. I basically just want to build up lots and lots of texture, and once I add, even though I'm adding elements on top of it, I wouldn't want to not bother doing that, add my image and then have like a random white gap or the not enough texture behind a certain area because that was where I was going to stick something down. And if I decide to change my mind and I decide that something will work better somewhere else, it's best just to cover a page than not cover a bit of page that you then regret later on. It's also a great way to practice your mixed media techniques and build confidence as well if you are new to it. I definitely find that experimenting on backgrounds is a great way to kind of just see how things work and how things, especially when you're layering up lots of different products. So I added some stamping here and there, as you saw, using a couple of stamps and that archival ink, and now I'm using mermaid markers. Now all that is dry over the top. These react with water but then dry permanent, which is great, and they're so vibrant and saturated that when you add water it goes so far, the colour. With some of them they're really bright and you have to be really careful and use a tiny bit because a tiny bit goes a long way, as you'll see. But I just want to try and match in some of the colours from the little boy in the rainbow into my background, but I want the background to be a kind of faded version of that. So as you'll see, I add quite a lot of water and I do lift some of the colour with tissue as well so that it all blends nicely. Like here, I feel like that yellow is way too bold because I only want the sun to stand out, so I do dab off quite a lot of colour here and there where I feel like I've put too much on. And as you can see on the sun, I'm adding kind of a swirly effect that I wanted to have on there. I do emphasize that more towards the end, but for now I'm just adding colour in a swirl so that I get that general idea. And this is the really bright colour that I use, but all I do is dab up a load and then smush it round, dab up a bit more, smush it round so that it's not too bold. The problem is it did actually pull away all the really dark indigo colour, which matched really well with the rainbow, so I do go in and bring some more of that colour back in. But as you can see, it's just a matter of going back and forth, adding, and where I feel like it's too bold I can just take some away, add some more. But I'm pretty happy with that background now, and so now that my background's almost done, I'm adding in my collaged elements. So I've just fussy cut out the little boy in a rainbow and some of the foliage, like flowers and little leaves that are like abstract versions, which are really beautiful, and I'll add them about the place as well. Not entirely sure where I wanted to put these at first, so I do actually keep a few back to add later, and just add a few and have a think about where I want to add the rest. And I'm using matte medium to add these by Prima. This stuff's brilliant. I think I'm on about my third pot now. It's just wonderful. It sticks everything. It's great for flat pieces. It works well to add. I add flowers to things, like 3D embellishments work well. You can get a heavy body one as well, which is can be used to mix with other products to help them stick down. There's quite a few different ones that work well for different projects, but for sticking down collaged elements, this stuff is the bomb, as they said in the 90s. Not even in England. So I'm just adding these leaves here and there just to balance the boy in the rainbow on one side. I wanted to have a floral cluster on the other, and now I'm happy with that. I'm adding some pastels. These are the Prima oil pastels and they're water soluble, so I'm just scribbling on a small amount where I want to deepen the colour to create a bit of a shadow, and then I'm spreading it out using a brush with a little bit of water, and then I just add a little more water, a little more crayon, depending on what I want to add more of, if I need it to be less saturated, or if I want to add a deeper shadow. And just the water just helps blend it out, and I can wash it out with water so that it blends really nice with the background, as you can see. I mostly want it deeper on that one side of the rainbow and lighter on the other, because obviously the sun is on the other side, but I do add a little on the other side just to help the page and the collage elements blend together. So I do add a touch of it actually on top of the paper as well as around the edges to help that all blend in nicely. And now I'm pretty happy with the placement of everything. I'm going to add these last couple of flowers, and I decide that I do want them across the bottom so the rainbow is peeking out from behind them. And I'm just adding some more of that darker colour to the bottom, so in case any of that is peeking through the flowers, then it's not randomly brighter than everywhere else. And now I'm going to do the same on the other side, just adding a bit of shadow in between all the little flowers and leaves, and making it darker towards the bottom and lighter towards the top, where the light source, if you want to call it that, I suppose it's a bit too abstract for that, but where the sun is and everything, I want to do that a bit lighter. And then I just add a little shadow underneath the sun just to help define the shape of that. And now I'm just grabbing some glue to add down those elements that I've added on afterwards. I'm not bothering with adding any matte medium to the top of these, because there's not going to be much more to do. I know they're not going to take a battering of, you know, loads of water and texture paste and anything else. So I just stick them on, and I'm just adding a hint of shadow really faintly around the edge of them so that they look more forward than the rainbow as well. Now I'm just going to add some white highlights. I use a Posca pen. As you can see here, you can barely see it because I needed to push the nib down a bit more to get the paint flowing that it's doing now. And I just add a few splashes. I colour in over the top of some of the texture paste, because I just wanted to bring it back forward again, because it's so lovely and it just was really lost on the background. And then I also defined that swirl within the sun as well, where I added some ink to make it look more swirly, I guess. Baby brain again. And now I want to add some of the very bright pink that I used earlier on in the mermaid marker, and I'm just adding a touch, only a tiny bit here and there, a few splashes. I added a little bit of to the blush on the little boy's cheeks. I add a hint to the flowers, a hint to the rainbow, and that's just to help tie it in with the background, because it's quite bold on the background and I just felt like it needed a hint of that colour within the collage elements as well. And then I also add some more of the orangey yellow to define the sun again, to add to the swirl and add to that, make that look more swirly, I guess. I think I've said that about 3 times now. And finally, I'm adding a tiny touch of the black water-soluble oil pastel as well. And to do this, I just scribbled it and added water, not straight onto the page, because I literally want a tiny bit. And then I also add just a couple of splashes here and there to finish it off the page. And that is it done. So thanks for joining me today. If you do want to check out the Paper Pen and Plan shop and look at the goodies there, then of course I will link it all below. There's also a Facebook group with lots of lovely inspiration using all the products as well, and you don't have to buy to join in over there, so I will link that one too. So if you would like to see more from me, please do like and subscribe to my channel. I should be back fairly soon, hopefully, with some more videos. And thanks for stopping all the way to the end. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.